You're listening to Motivation Chaser, a show about finding inspiration in the books we read, movies we watch, and music we listen to. I'm Fabian Rodriguez. Motivation Chaser is brought to you by Full Stack. When you're a founder, you get used to doing it all. You sometimes forget that somebody else could do it better, faster, or cheaper. That's where Full Stack PEO comes in. They specialize in turnkey HR for emerging companies, not just payroll and benefits, but advice and expert services that help you and your people maximize potential. Find out more at fullstackpeo.com. I wanted to start this episode by letting you know that this season is coming to an end. This is actually the last episode for season 1. So thank you to all of the guests that we have had so far. I truly appreciate you taking the chance to come onto the show, not really knowing what it was going to turn into. When I originally had the idea for Motivation Chaser, I kind of knew what I wanted it to sound like, but I didn't really know how I was going to make that happen. And I can say that I'm very proud of the end result that we've gotten to so far. And I think that for season 2, we still have a long way to go. There are definitely skills that I want to continue to foster to keep upping the level and the overall quality of the show in regards to sound design and guests and storytelling. But I can say that I'm very happy with where we ended up. So with that said, I also wanted to thank everybody who has listened to the show, who has shared the show, and has sent either an email, direct message, or a text just telling me that they've been listening, because that means a lot. And I hope that you will continue to share, subscribe, and review this show so that I can keep doing it. But this is the end of season 1, and season 2 is currently being worked on. I'm actively looking for future guests for that season. So if you have any suggestions, please send me an email or send me a message and let me know who you want to hear from. And if you have any feedback on the format of the show, I'd love to hear about that too, because this show is ultimately for you guys. And while it is cathartic for me and a way for me to empty my brain, more importantly, it's a show that I created to help motivate and inspire everybody out there. So feedback is welcomed and wanted. And as I mentioned, if you have people that you want me to talk to or want to hear from, please let me know. Send them a message and let them know that they can get in touch with me by sending me an email to fabian@culturecollaborativemedia.com or fabian@drnkcltr.com. You can also reach out to me at any one of my social media accounts. That's either Fabian Time, Culture Collaborative Media, or the Motivation Chaser account as well. So for my just one thing today, I want to talk about core values. Some of you may already know what those are, but if you're unfamiliar, basically core values are the group of beliefs that a person or organization operates from. They are the principal perspectives that guide a person or organization's behavior with others. And developing personal core values can make a huge difference. They can help us become better team members, better leaders, coworkers, spouses, and even better parents. And what prompted me to want to talk about core values today is actually a conversation I had on another podcast that I produce and co-host called Moments to Momentum. Our guest, David Mann, was telling a story about a time when his core values were really put to the test. Here he is talking about that incident.
And so we were standing up in front of them, and I was chosen by our team at the Firefly Group to stand up and speak to these folks for the first time. And so we were getting up there, introduce me. I walk in front of the room. I'm a bit nervous because I'm trying to do a good job and impress the folks. Give our little spiel about Firefly, what we love about EOS, what we love about the community. Seems to be going well. I'm getting some head nods, a few smiles, trying to warm up the room. And then I said, is there any questions? And so we get a few softball questions, and that answered them pretty well. Got a couple other softball questions. And then a lady stood up and said, hey, David, what is Firefly Group's core values? And we have core values. We talk about those core values, but I couldn't name one of them. And so I looked at her as a deer in the headlights and had to admit I could not name a single one of our core values. And I wanted to crawl under the floor, because here we are talking about, hey, this is what it means to us. Here's who we are. Our core values stand for, and I could not name one. So after that, the rest of the meeting, it was running in my head because I couldn't get it out of my head. But I came back to our team the next week, and it's because of my failure. I said, we need to relook at these core values. Do they really mean something to us? Is that just something we hang on the wall and talk about? Hey, we're core values, folks. Well, either we are or we aren't.
Either we are or we aren't. It's extremely simple, yet incredibly powerful stuff. Either we are or we aren't. And after that conversation with David, I kept thinking to myself, if I were to stop someone walking down the street and ask them what their personal core values were, would they be able to answer that question with confidence, or would they have to think about it and just come up with something on the fly? And I'll tell you, I didn't like my own answer, because I started thinking about this and said, I don't have my own set of core values. I mean, I have things that I think are core values, but I don't actually have them written down anywhere. I don't feel convicted about any of the answers that I would come up with, and nothing is coming to mind that I would want to tattoo on my body. So what does that tell you? Well, I think it means that I have some work to do. And if you feel the same way, then you probably have some work to do too. So check back in between now and season 2, because I'll probably drop an episode to talk about what I came up with. And if this is something that you've already done or are planning to do after listening to this episode, I'd love to hear from you. Coming up, I'll tell you what I've been reading, watching, and listening to since the last episode. Do you ever think about why you are the way you are, or why you do certain things all of the time? Have you been in search of answers that help you better understand yourself, or looking for guidance on your path to self-improvement? Well, lately I have been, and I want to tell you about a book that I read a couple of years ago called The Road Back to You, an Enneagram Journey to Self-Discovery by Ian Morgan Cron and Suzanne Stabile. The Enneagram is an ancient personality typing system with an uncanny accuracy in describing how human beings are wired, both positively and negatively. And if you have no idea what the Enneagram is, buckle in and I'll give you a quick history lesson. The Enneagram is a system of 9 personality types combining traditional wisdom with modern psychology. It's a powerful tool for understanding ourselves and the people in our lives, with 3 major applications: personal and spiritual growth, successful relationships at home and at work, leadership development, team building, and communication skills for business. This 9-pointed diagram, Ennea, which is Greek for 9, has been used for centuries in esoteric Christian and Sufi traditions as a map of human consciousness and archetypes. It was first brought to the public in 1915 in Moscow by George Gurdjieff, a philosopher and teacher who used it in his program of human development. Then, in the late 1960s, Oscar Ichazo, the founder of the Arika School, placed 9 types of personality on the Enneagram. Shortly thereafter, Claudio Naranjo and other psychologists in Berkeley combined the Enneagram with the latest developments of modern psychology. While each personality type can be found in psychological literature, the Enneagram brings them together in a unified system and shows their interrelationships. This combination of ancient symbol and modern psychology continues to be developed today by psychologists, business consultants, educators, and spiritual directors. In The Road Back to You, Ian and Suzanne create a unique approach, a practical, comprehensive way of accessing Enneagram wisdom and exploring its connections with spirituality for a deeper knowledge of ourselves, compassion for others, and love for God. And if that last statement made you flinch, I'd say that you should probably still give this book a read. The Christianity and God portion really isn't too in your face. But what does the Enneagram actually tell us? Well, according to Ian and Suzanne, each of the 9 personality types is defined by a set of core beliefs about how the world works. And these core beliefs shape our worldview and the perspective through which we see the world and the people around us. Now, our beliefs are not necessarily incorrect, but they are limiting. And understanding our Enneagram type and how it colors our perceptions can help us to broaden our perspective and approach situations more effectively. If you're curious, I'm a 7, the enthusiast. Here are a couple of the things that stuck out to me from the book.
Type 7, the enthusiast. Here are some statements you might hear a 7 use to describe themselves. I am an optimist to a fault. I suffer from FOMO, fear of missing out. Variety and spontaneity are the spice of life. Sometimes I get so eager for the future I can hardly wait for it to get here. It's hard for me to finish things. When I get close to the end of a project, I start thinking about the next thing, and then I get so excited I sometimes just move on. When people I care about are having a hard time, I help them look at the bright side of the situation. Other people think I'm sure of myself, but I have lots of doubts. When things get too serious for too long, I usually find a way to get people to lighten up, often by telling jokes and funny stories. I quickly get bored with the same routine, and I like to try new things. I don't like it when people have expectations of me.
If you know me, you know this is absolutely true.
Now, average 7s reframe almost everything that is sad, limiting, or could be perceived as failure, changing the narrative so that even the most negative events are recast in an affirming way. Now, 7s in an unhealthy space see themselves and their environment as inadequate, feeling sorry for themselves, and often believing they've been dealt an unfair hand. They try to avoid pain at any cost, which leads to irresponsible behavior and seeking instant gratification. These 7s are often reckless, risking more than they can stand to lose, and are more prone to addiction than any other number.
So this one really hit home with me, and I don't particularly know why. Maybe it was the part about not wanting to feel pain, or maybe it was the part about being more susceptible to addiction, but it made me think about the things that I do, and not necessarily in a bad way, but more so in my irresistible urge to collect things, to go all in on stuff. Either way, I couldn't shake it. It just felt too true.
As is the case with every Enneagram type, what's best about their personality is what's worst about their personality. Their gift is also their curse. Just scratch the vibrant paint on the surface of a 7, and what you'll find underneath is the need to avoid pain. I can't say that strongly enough. 7s don't want to feel unpleasant emotions, particularly that swirl of fear and emptiness they register at their core. Listen, no one enjoys feeling frightened or sad, bored, angry, disappointed, or frustrated. But let me tell you, for 7s, emotions like these are intolerable.
Okay, so this is the part where I will say that if you're going to read this book or if you're going to listen to it, you really have to be open and accepting to hearing things about yourself that maybe you don't like. And I probably listened to this chapter about being a 7 a couple of times just to make sure that it was me.
7s crave stimulation. Ask one how much is enough, and they'll say just a little more.
Again, if you've ever hung out with me, it's kind of true.
7s would rather eat glass than suffer boredom. When it surfaces, 7s get hyperactive and overly talkative. Their minds race faster than usual, and they become bad-tempered.
Yeah, you'd probably say that this one is me too.
7s at work. 7s would kill for the opportunity to take over Anthony Bourdain's job as host of the cable food and travel show Parts Unknown. To jet the globe, exploring new cultures, meeting fascinating people, eating strange meals, and never knowing what lies around the next corner. Are you kidding? Gigs like that, however, don't come along very often. But 7s need to find work in similarly fast-paced, creative environments that afford them independence, a variety of activities, and flexibility. 7s are rock stars when it comes to working on short-term projects, or getting startup companies off the ground. Their optimism and creative juice and sprite energy move things along at a quick pace. Be forewarned, however. 7s aren't managers or maintainers, so you'll need to find someone else to oversee the execution phase while you set the 7 loose on a new venture.
So, like I said, you have to be willing to accept the things that deep down you know are true about yourself. And these were just snippets from this chapter, and each chapter really does dive deep into personality traits and characteristics and habits of each Enneagram number. So overall, it's a great book to revisit. And if you ever get stuck or in a funk or you're just feeling down, I think it's important to go in and look at the things that are good about yourself and the things that you go to when you're in a negative space. And this book really helps me to bring some of that out and explain to myself why I'm doing certain behaviors. So check it out, The Road Back to You, An Enneagram Journey by Ian Cron and Suzanne Stabile. And if you're 7, or any number for that fact, send me a message. I'd love to hear about it. Coming up next, I'll tell you about one of my all-time favorite movies, Whiplash. So Whiplash debuted in 2014, and it was written and directed by Damien Chazelle. He's actually the same guy that wrote and directed La La Land. Whiplash depicts the relationship between an ambitious jazz drummer, played by Miles Teller, and his abusive, perfectionist band leader that's perfectly played by J.K. Simmons at the fictional Schaefer Conservatory. Now, if you like jazz, I think you're going to love this movie. But even if you don't like jazz, I still think you're going to like it too, because this movie, it isn't just about jazz. It's about passion. It's about doing what you love to do. It's about wanting to become one of the greats at your craft. And more importantly, I think it's really about those people in your life that can either foster you to become one of the greats or completely kill your love of that thing because they push you too hard. And that's a fine line sometimes. It's hard to tell the difference. And if I'm being honest, I think we can all say that we've had an instance where someone, be it a parent, a mentor, a boss, someone who has seen potential inside of us and has tiptoed over the line of going too far. And I think this movie does a really good job of presenting that to the audience. If you've never seen this movie, it's intense. Like almost as intense as when I first watched Uncut Gems. Like sweaty palms intense. So I'm going to play a scene for you. And I think that this scene captures that intense tone that you feel throughout the entire film. And by the way, if you have kids in the car or are sensitive to swearing, this clip is not PG.
5, 6, and. Not quite my tempo. Here we go. 5, 6, and. Downbeat on 18. Okay, here we go. 5, 6, and. Bar 17, the and of 4. Got it? 5, 6, 7. Not quite my tempo. It's all good. No worries. Here we go. 5, 6, 7. You're rushing. Here we go. Ready? Okay. 5, 6, and. Dragging just a hair. Wait for my cue. 5, 6, 7. Rushing. 5, 6, and. Dragging. 5, 6, and. Why do you suppose I just hurled a chair at your head, Neiman?
I don't know.
Sure you do.
The tempo?
Were you rushing or were you dragging?
I don't know.
Start counting.
5, 6, 7.
In 4, damn it! Look at me!
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Now, was I rushing or was I dragging?
No.
Count again.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Rushing or dragging?
Rushing.
So you do know the difference. If you deliberately sabotage my band, I will fuck you like a pig. Now, are you a rusher or are you a dragger? Or are you going to be on my fucking time?
I'm gonna be on your time.
What does that say?
Quarter note equals 215.
Count me at 215.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Jesus fucking Christ! I didn't know they allowed retards into Schaefer. Am I to understand that you cannot read tempo? Can you even fucking read music? What is that?
8th note.
Yes, what is that?
Dotted 16th note.
Sight read measure 101.
Ba 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 ba.
What are you, in a fucking a cappella group? Play the goddamn kit! Stop! Now answer my question. Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
Rushing.
You see what I mean? This movie is intense. I bet you never thought that a movie about jazz drumming could be that hardcore, but I'm telling you, J.K. Simmons is scary as hell and is absolutely phenomenal in this film. And I don't know, to me that seemed really harsh, but I can also think back to coaches that have showed me that level of intensity. And maybe it just depends on the type of person you are or the way that you grew up to explain exactly how you would interpret some of that scene. But for me, I can kind of see the intention behind wanting to push somebody to be great. You'll hear about it in the final clip that I'm going to play, but this movie really does force you to think about the greats like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods, or Charlie Parker, and ask yourself, would they have reached that greatness without being pushed? I'll let you decide.
Truth is, I don't think people understood what it was I was doing at Schaefer. I wasn't there to conduct. Any fucking moron can wave his arms and keep people in tempo. I was there to push people beyond what's expected of them. I believe that is an absolute necessity. Otherwise, we're depriving the world of the next Louis Armstrong, the next Charlie Parker. I told you that story about how Charlie Parker became Charlie Parker, right?
Yeah, Joe Jones threw a symbol at his head.
Exactly. Parker's a young kid, pretty good on the sax, gets up to play at a cutting session, and he fucks it up. And Jones nearly decapitates him for it. And he's laughed off stage. Cries himself to sleep that night, but the next morning, what does he do? He practices. And he practices and he practices with one goal in mind, never to be laughed at again. And a year later, he goes back to the Reno and he steps up on that stage and he plays the best motherfucking solo the world has ever heard. So imagine if Jones had just said, well, that's okay, Charlie. That was all right. Good job. And Charlie thinks to himself, well, shit, I did do a pretty good job. End of story. No bird. That to me is an absolute tragedy. But that's just what the world wants now. People wonder why jazz is dying. I'll tell you, man, and every Starbucks jazz album just proves my point, really. There are no two words in the English language more harmful than good job.
But is there a line? You know, maybe you go too far and you discourage the next Charlie Parker from ever becoming Charlie Parker.
No, man, no. Because the next Charlie Parker would never be discouraged.
Yeah.
And coming up last, I'll tell you all about how you can join me in enjoying one of my favorite things in the entire world. Can you guess what that is? It's music. Music is my refuge. It's the place that I run to for comfort. It's the place where I always find inspiration. And not too long ago, I started to make these playlists on a monthly basis to just share songs that either reminded me of something from a particular time in my life or something new I'd discovered. If you heard that bit from the Enneagram section a few minutes ago, you'd know that as a 7, I need constant stimulation. And for me, music is that stimulation. It's always in the background. So for this listen section, I just wanted to talk about 3 specific songs that recently came to mind from my most recent October playlist that you can find on Spotify. If you're interested in following, the playlist is called Culture Collaborative Vibes, and I update it every month. So nothing fancy here. I'll tell you who the artist is, the song name and album title, and then play a few seconds of it for you. First up, a song called Birthday from the British electronic duo Disclosure. This track features Kalani and Sid and is from their 2020 album, Energy. Check it out.
Oh babe, you've been on my mind, just an old flame, I left you behind, but all with it any other day, maybe you don't need to stay away, I'm just wondering what you would say, would it be a big mistake? Can I call you on your birthday? Just to make sure that you're okay. Would you prefer it if I go ghost and let you go your own way? Can I call you on
Next, we have Temptations from Ty Dolla $ign. This song features an awesome verse from Kid Cudi and is from Ty Dolla $ign's new album that dropped on October 23rd called Featuring Ty Dolla $ign. Here it is.
She let me out here with temptation. With temptation. She let me out here with temptation. With temptation. Oh, no, I don't know how to act. Oh, no, I don't know how to act. Oh, now she tryna get me back. Oh, no, I don't know how to act. Oh, even though I got options, still tripping on you. I got choices on choices, still ain't over you. You know I'm picky, I'm just seeing what I like. So it's fucking feelings, girl, I'm single for the night. Girl, I'm cool off you. I might pull up on the next bitch, chunking up the deuces while you walking out the exit. Why the fuck you throwing shade when I'm the one that you obsessed with? Yeah.
And last, from a band that I recently found out had broken up in December of 2019, is a song called Silly Me by Ye Sayer. This is from their penultimate album, Amen and Goodbye. And that's it. If you like what you heard, please subscribe, share, and review the show. And if you're interested in finding out more about anything that I talked about in this episode, be sure to check out the show notes for links to everything, including all the music that we used. This show is hosted and edited by me, Fabian Rodriguez, mixed and mastered by the one and only Jeff DuPont.